We've all been hearing about supply chain issues lately, but what does that really mean for you?
Walk into any supermarket in mid-2025, and you might feel like you're in a strange, alternate version of your usual store. Shelves that once overflowed with everyday staples now sit eerily bare. It's not just pandemic-era déjà vu. These shortages are real, and in many cases, getting worse. While inflation and labor strikes make headlines, the quiet chaos is playing out in the grocery aisles. What used to be simple items, cat food, cream cheese, or even a bottle of Sriracha, have become scavenger hunts for shoppers across America. Global climate disruptions, war-zone trade routes, export bans, and domestic factory closures are turning previously mundane products into rare commodities. But this isn't a one-off blip. These shortages expose just how vulnerable our supply chains remain, even years after the initial COVID shock. What's happening now is a slow, fragmented unraveling, driven not by a single cause, but by a perfect storm of small crises stacking on top of each other. From condiments to comfort food, pet supplies to pantry essentials, here are 10 items that are shockingly hard to find at grocery stores right now, and the surprising reasons behind their disappearance. 1. Sriracha. The cult favorite hot sauce has officially entered unicorn status in 2025, cited only in Reddit photos or behind locked glass at premium grocers. Hui Fong Foods, the iconic maker of Sriracha, has been battling chili pepper shortages for nearly 2 years, and the problems aren't easing. The culprit: a drought in Mexico that decimated red jalapeno crops, an essential ingredient for the sauce's signature burn. Hui Fong's strained relationship with its primary pepper supplier only made things worse, leading to halted production lines and canceled shipments nationwide. Despite customers offering to pay double or even triple the retail price, shelves remain empty. Secondary markets like eBay and Facebook Marketplace list bottles as collector's items, with some topping $50 a piece. Restaurants have resorted to knockoff brands or making their own blends, but die-hard fans insist it's not the same. And with no new production date confirmed as of July 2025, it's safe to say that the beloved rooster sauce has officially gone underground. 2. Cat food. Pet owners are running into a furry crisis. Cat food shelves across the US remain unusually empty, and the situation isn't improving. From big box chains to local grocers, both wet and dry varieties are either out of stock or heavily rationed. The root problem starts at the supply chain. Meat processing plants continue to operate below capacity due to labor shortages and rising costs. That, combined with increased pet adoptions post-pandemic, means demand has far outpaced supply. But it doesn't stop there. Aluminum, used for canned food packaging, is also in short supply due to ongoing geopolitical tensions and reduced mining output from China. Manufacturers are scrambling to substitute packaging materials, but retooling takes time and a lot of money. Some brands like Fancy Feast and Friskies have quietly scaled back their product lines, focusing on best sellers while discontinuing niche flavors. In many stores, signs now limit customers to 2 cans per visit. For thousands of feline families, it's become a frustrating game of store hopping and substitutions, one missed delivery at a time. 3. Saltine crackers. Saltines, those simple square crackers that accompany everything from chicken soup to upset stomachs, are now mysteriously missing from shelves across the country. Hospitals, food pantries, and families are all reporting spotty availability of this once reliable staple. The reason? A 1-2 punch of flour shortages and packaging delays. Several Midwestern flour mills temporarily shut down in early 2025 due to labor disputes and grain pricing volatility tied to drought conditions in the U.S. plains. Without a steady stream of wheat flour, cracker production has sputtered. Add to that a slowdown in paperboard manufacturing, essential for those familiar cracker sleeves, and the supply chain bottlenecks start to make sense. Brands like Nabisco and Keebler have diverted resources toward more profitable snack lines, pushing saltines to the back burner. The result? Some stores have gone weeks without a single box, and online orders are frequently backlogged or canceled. For a food known for its simplicity, the absence of saltines is a surprisingly complex sign of the times. 4. Tinned sardines. Tinned sardines, a pantry power player rich in omega-3s and protein, are slipping into scarcity mode. Once easy to stockpile or grab in bulk at warehouse stores, these tiny fish are suddenly swimming out of reach in 2025. The problem starts in the ocean. Overfishing concerns have led several international bodies, including the EU and Southeast Asian regulators, to impose stricter catch limits on sardine fisheries. Some key suppliers in Morocco and Portugal have reduced exports altogether to comply with sustainability goals. Meanwhile, global shipping ports are still jammed from lingering post-COVID congestion, and new climate-related reroutes. The few containers that make it through are prioritized for higher-margin items like electronics, leaving low-cost canned fish at the back of the queue. The result? American distributors are facing both reduced inventory and higher costs, which get passed on to consumers, if the tins arrive at all. For those who relied on sardines as an affordable protein, it's not just a grocery inconvenience, it's a dietary setback. 5. Baby formula. America's baby formula shelves still haven't fully recovered from the crisis of 2022, and parents are feeling the pressure all over again in 2025. While it's no longer a nationwide emergency, availability remains frustratingly inconsistent. Abbott Nutrition's troubled plant in Michigan, which was at the center of the earlier crisis, resumed partial operations, but not at full strength. Meanwhile, global suppliers face ongoing delays due to customs restrictions, shipping backlog, and rising ingredient prices for dairy and synthetic nutrients. Retailers like Target and CVS have implemented quiet purchasing limits again, and specialty formulas for allergies or sensitivities are the hardest to find. Online stock is unreliable, and delivery times can stretch to weeks. The government has attempted to boost domestic production through emergency funding, but critics argue it's too little, too late. For new parents, it means a return to calling multiple stores, stockpiling whenever possible, and leaning on social media groups for formula swap alerts. Once again, the smallest consumers are paying the biggest price. 6. Cream cheese. If you've tried to bake a cheesecake or spread cream cheese on a bagel recently, you've probably noticed the dairy case looking a bit emptier than usual. Cream cheese, once a guaranteed grab at any grocery store, is now sporadically out of stock across multiple regions in the US. The root cause: labor shortages in dairy processing plants have disrupted production since late 2024, while milk supply remains stable. Converting it into processed dairy like cream cheese takes time, equipment, and skilled workers. 3 things in short supply right now. To make matters worse, the surge in home baking and brunch trends on social media has fueled demand. Brands like Philadelphia have struggled to meet it, often prioritizing bulk commercial orders over retail shelves. Add a lingering shortage of foil and plastic packaging, and you've got a spreadable crisis. Bagel shops and bakeries are now sourcing alternatives or hiking prices, while shoppers are learning the hard way that not all cream cheese substitutes taste or bake the same. 7. Rice. One of the most consumed staples on earth, rice is becoming harder to find in many American grocery stores, especially premium varieties like jasmine and basmati. The shelves may still have plain long grain options, but prices are up and choices are down. The major reason: India, the world's largest rice exporter, enacted a sweeping ban on non-basmati white rice exports in 2023 to control domestic inflation. That restriction has remained in place through 2025, severely reducing global supply. Countries that once relied on Indian rice, including the US, have been forced to compete for dwindling reserves. Extreme flooding in Southeast Asia has also destroyed significant portions of rice crops in Thailand and Vietnam, compounding the shortage. And with shipping costs rising, especially for heavy agricultural imports, retailers are passing costs to consumers or cutting inventory altogether. For immigrant communities and health-conscious shoppers who prefer aromatic or specialty rice, it's become an exercise in patience. From stir-fry to sushi, every dish that starts with rice now begins with a question: can we even find it? 8. Peanut butter. Even peanut butter, one of America's most reliable comfort foods, is facing supply trouble in 2025. Brands like Jif and Skippy have scaled back certain product lines as peanut crops take a major hit across the southern U.S. Severe drought conditions in Georgia, Alabama, and Texas, key peanut-producing states, have drastically reduced harvest yields. On top of that, contamination fears over aflatoxins, a toxic mold that thrives in drought conditions, have caused processors to discard thousands of tons of raw peanuts this year alone. That leaves manufacturers scrambling for clean supply, while prices quietly surge. Some stores have begun limiting quantities per customer, especially on low-cost store-brand peanut butter. Crunchy variants are even harder to come by. The ripple effects are real. School lunch programs are reporting delays, food banks are running low, and parents are left explaining to kids why PB&J isn't always on the menu. It's a sticky situation, literally and figuratively, in a year already full of grocery surprises. 9. Tortilla chips. From Super Bowl parties to late-night snacking, tortilla chips are a staple in American households. But this summer, they're disappearing fast. Walk into stores across the Southwest and Midwest, and you'll often find empty shelves where your favorite chip bags used to be. The core issue? A national corn shortage. Prolonged drought in the American Midwest coupled with decreased corn exports from Mexico due to water restrictions and crop disease, has put immense pressure on the supply of white and yellow corn, the backbone of tortilla chips. To make matters worse, large manufacturers like Frito-Lay are prioritizing their most profitable flavors, leaving store brands and restaurant suppliers scrambling for stock. Smaller tortilla chip makers have even paused production or raised prices by as much as 40%. The result? Nacho night just got more complicated, and for restaurants that rely on chips and salsa as a low-cost appetizer, the shortage has forced menu changes and customer disappointment across the board. 10. Glass-jarred pasta sauce. Pasta sauce in a glass jar seems like the kind of item that should always be in stock, but lately, that's far from guaranteed. Popular brands like Prego, Classico, and Rouse are becoming harder to find, especially during weekly sales. Why? It's a two-part bottleneck. Literally. First, the 2024 tomato crop in California's Central Valley, one of the largest producers of processing tomatoes in the world, was devastated by a triple threat: flooding, heat waves, and fungal blight. That significantly reduced the supply of paste-grade tomatoes, the key ingredient in most sauces. Second, a persistent global shortage of glass jars and lids, partly due to supply chain shifts and energy costs in Europe, has made packaging even harder to secure. Even when the sauce is ready, there's often nothing to put it in. Retailers are rationing shipments, and some pasta lovers have started buying canned alternatives or making their own sauce at home. But for many, nothing beats that signature jar. And now, it's nowhere to be found. At first glance, the disappearance of items like tortilla chips, Sriracha, or cat food might seem like isolated annoyances. But look closer, and a troubling pattern emerges. The grocery shortages of 2025 aren't random. They're signals of deeper systemic stress in our global food and logistics networks. Climate change isn't just theoretical anymore. It's burning peanut crops in the South and drowning tomato fields in California. Labor shortages aren't just a footnote. They're closing dairy plants and delaying cream cheese production. And global geopolitics aren't just headlines. They're directly tied to why your favorite brand of rice or pasta sauce is missing from the shelf. These product gaps are reminders of just how interconnected and how fragile the modern food system really is. A drought in one country or a factory fire in another can ripple into your shopping cart months later. Consumers are adapting, learning to stockpile smarter, try substitutions, or even go DIY. But the bigger question remains: if these are the items vanishing today, what might be next tomorrow? In a world that promised 24/7's convenience, the empty shelf may be the loudest warning we get.